So we've just arrived at the dew pond at Wild Park at the bottom of the Hollingbury golf course and near Hollingbury Fort, and we're joined here by Jon Mason, who is a fabulous local storyteller.
So people had all sorts of ideas about ponds in times past, and rivers and streams and any little body of water near where we live. I guess because it's funny, isn't it? We need the water, we couldn't live without it, but sometimes it can be dangerous, and even when it's not, we know that there's a whole world of creatures down there that we have nothing to do with. So all across the British Isles, going back through history, then people have told stories about all sorts of things that might live in ponds or come out of ponds. They might talk about fairy maidens, or even whole magical kingdoms that you can only reach by going down underneath the water. Here in Sussex, they used to talk about knuckers. Now, what is a knucker, you might ask? Well, a knucker is, I don't know if anybody's entirely sure. Sometimes in the stories it's a bit like a dragon. Sometimes in the stories it's a bit like a slug, something big and squelchy and slimy. But all across the Sussex coast, then in ponds of water just like this, and they would say, there might be a knucker. And if there was a knucker, well, you better beware. I'll tell you one story about a knucker, a very particular knucker. This wasn't just some little splashy puddle knucker mucking about in the shallows. This was a monster knucker. And they say that it lived in a pond at a place called Lyminster, just outside Arundel. And it had been a terror in its day, but it had been sleeping peacefully down in its pool for generations. But something woke it up. Now, I've heard it said that somebody had dropped a bell from the village church down into the pond. For all I know, it might have been a broken old telly or a motorbike or a shopping trolley, I don't know. But something was dropped down into that pond and it landed smack right on the knucker's head. And so then the knucker woke up. It opened its blazing yellow eyes and it looked around with its big scaly head, and then it went swoosh up through the water, broke out of the pond, and it looked around and it saw fields and farms and animals. And so it prowled out of the water and along the shore, and it chased all the sheep and cows and pigs and horses that it could find all the way up the road to Arundel. And when it got there, it saw the town, it saw the houses, and it saw the people. And it chased them too. And anything that it could catch, it ate it down in one big gulp. And it went back down into its pool to sleep again. But it had got a taste for it now. And so it came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. And it was terrorising all the people who lived thereabouts. And so they didn't know what to do. So they thought, well, we've got a big dragony monster, even if it is a bit slimy and horrible. We'll do what you always do if you've got a dragony problem. We'll put out a message calling for knights in armour to come and defeat the beast, and then we'll give them a reward. They can be the mayor of all Arundel. And so that's what they did. And so knights in armour came, prancing on their chargers, shiny and white in the village square, and they all rode down the road out to Lyminster. And when they got there, they saw the knucker lying in the shallows of the pool, dripping its slime and baring its teeth in a big grin. And every single one of those knights turned tail and fled before you could say bruised masculine pride. They were off. So the people of Arundel and Lyminster, they didn't know what to do. But the story says that somebody who lived thereabouts, one of their own, came to their aid. A little girl stood up in the marketplace one day and said, excuse me, I'm going to kill the knucker. When the people heard that, then they all burst out laughing and they said, you? How could you possibly kill the knucker? You saw what all those knights in armour tried. They couldn't do it. Why could you do it? She said, it's all right. I've got a plan. And they all laughed at her even more, but she didn't mind. Well, not too much. But she did have a plan. First of all, she went to her grown-up's kitchen. She made sure her grown-ups were okay with this. She made an enormous Sussex pie. Now, if you've not heard of a Sussex pie was an immense pie that would have been filled with apples and spices and dried fruits. And she had this pie that was so big she had to put it on a cart and heave it with a big rope. She hauled this pie on its cart all the way down the road to Leominster. And when she got there, the knucker was waiting, squelching in the shallows and dripping slime, and it said, you're not a knight. And she said, oh, no, not me. And it said, what's that you've got there? And she said, oh, well, it's a pie, and I made it for you. The knucker was a bit surprised at this, because people didn't usually come bringing in pies, so it said, for me? And she said, yeah. And it said, a pie? And she said, oh, yeah. So it came and had a sniff and it tasted it. It was pretty good, this pie. And so it gobbled the whole thing down till it had crumbs all over its face, and it swung its big scaly head towards her and it said, bring me another one just like that tomorrow. And she said, it's fine. I will. So the little girl, she did come back the next day with another pie for the knucker, and it had a bit of a taste of this one, and this one was just as good, as I gobbled it down so quick it had crumbs all over its face and all down its back. And then it said to her again, bring me another one just like that one tomorrow. And so she said, okay. And that's what she did. But this next pie, this didn't just have the apples and the spices and the dried fruit in it, no. Because this little girl, she'd been to lots and lots of interesting forest schools and things like that. And she'd spent a lot of time out in the woods. And you know when your grown-ups say to you not to go and pick all the mushrooms in the woods, because some of them might be good for you, but some of them really won't. Some of them will be really poisonous. And you have to be a bit of an expert to know which is which. Well, this little girl had learned which was which. She went out to the woods and she gathered all of the most poisonous, most fitted, ugly, oily, inky mushrooms she could find. She boiled them all up in a pot and she poured that into the pie with the apples and the spices and all the dried fruit. And then she hauled that pie on its cart all the way down the road to Leominster. And this was the biggest pie yet. And when she got there, the knucker wasn't waiting in the shallows. It was running round and round around the pool, getting so impatient and excited for its pie. And when it saw her, it didn't even bother to ask any questions. It dived straight in head first, and it gobbled the whole pie down so quick it had crumbs all over its face and down its back and all the way to the tip of its tail. And then it sat back and it was a happy knucker. But then, oh, crikey, something was wrong. Oh, the knucker had such pains in its tummy and it felt like it was blowing up like a balloon. And oh gosh, it had never felt this bad before. And it looked at the girl and it said, what have you done to me? What did you put in that pie? But before the little girl had a chance to answer, the knucker exploded. And there were bits of knucker left all over the landscape. And the girl was covered head to foot, but she wiped herself off. She walked back up the road to Arundel. She stood there in the middle of the market square and she said, I've done it. I've killed the knucker. And no one was going to laugh at her this time because they could all see quite clearly that she had indeed killed the knucker. And so they were thrilled and they lifted the little girl on their shoulders and they paraded her around town, and they were as good as their word and they gave her the reward. She got to be the Lord Mayor of all Arundel. But you never know. Ponds like this one, there might still be knuckers out there, so if you go out looking in the water, you never know what you might find.